Well, apparently something was afoot in Green Bay. The ground attack rolls on. And can you smell what the Jared is cooking? It's all sweet tasting gravy as we recap the Niners and look ahead to the Chiefs next on your Packers Fan Podcast.
Hey Packers fans, this is your unofficial Packers Fan Podcast, and these are the podcasters you're looking for. One of these guys, even though he's a huge fan of the Packers, he doesn't like bratwursts and wonders if that's wrong. And the other guy bangs the drum all day and thinks, touchdown. And now it's time to Go Pack Go with your hosts, Wayne Henderson and Troy Heinritz.
Go Pack Go, fellow Packers fans. I'm getting hungry, and I want to welcome you back to the unofficial Packers Fan Podcast. Remember, Packers Fan Podcast is the show by and for fans of the 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers, and we've got a new feedback hotline number for you, area code 920-3PACK-GO. Or you can simply visit PackersFanPodcast.com/feedback, be part of the show, let your voice be heard. This is episode 109 of your Packers Fan Podcast. Tonight is August 30th, 2016, and all the details and analysis from this edition will be found at PackersFanPodcast.com/109.
On this episode, we're going to share the highlights and lowlights like we do every week from that great win over the Niners. 39 minutes of time of possession. What? And we'll have a lively discussion on the idea that we're kicking around.
We'll also share the latest injury news, not just for the Packers, and look ahead to the last preseason game in KC against the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm at Wayne Henderson, your voice acting, podcasting part owner of the Green Bay Packers.
And I'm at Troy Heinritz, feeling a little melancholy today for those that won't see their Packers dreams come true, but we'll get into that in a bit. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming back and joining us again. Preseason is underway, and we are proud to be part of the SPNT.TV Sports Podcast Network. And now we are on the go with our free Packers Fan Podcast apps. That's right. When you're at the game waiting for it to start, you can listen to our show on the go. So just get those apps for iOS and Android, presented by theticketking.com. Remember, you're not sold out until the king is sold out. Get Packers tickets at the best prices by visiting PackersFanPodcast.com/tickets for details.
Also, you can become a Packers Fan Podcast Patreon supporter. It helps us help grow the show and bring you more great content each week, but you can get a cool and fun reward as well. Check out all the different levels by visiting PackersFanPodcast.com/support. Even a chance to go to a game at Lambeau Field during the 2017 season. Again, PackersFanPodcast.com/support for all those details. And with your support, we can do more fun things in the future like post-game live, call-in shows, and other good stuff along those lines. But let's go ahead and dig into this preseason game that happened the other night against the Niners. Some of the highlights: AR-12 is back, baby.
Yes, 2 series is all it took to show that Aaron Rodgers is ready to go for the Jaguars. That's right, opening day is coming soon. It was nice to actually see him moving around and shaking a little bit, because remember last season there, Wayne, that we always said that the reason why we're not winning these games is because Aaron didn't look very mobile in the pocket. We realized he had a little bit of surgery in the offseason. So it was really great to see him extending the play and executing that really nice long drive on that second possession. I mean, he went 6 of 9, 66.7% completion rating for 60 yards and a touchdown for a 122.5. Wow, my radio dial doesn't even go that high.
We have quarterbacks that do. There was so much good stuff. It was great to see him out there, shook off whatever rust may or may not have been there, and I definitely think he's ready. Do not look to see him again till opening day, September 11th.
Would be my guess as well.
Yes, I think that's a very safe bet. And how about tight end Jared Cook that we stole from the Rams for a great deal? He played beautifully.
Oh my gosh, did he not? 4 catches, 54 yards, and he had that nice 20-yard long. Actually, I think it's probably 19, but we'll give him 20 just for the effort because it looked awesome. Because we're expecting big things out of Jared this season. You know what? I was actually watching this. It almost reminded me of having like a Donald Driver out on the field, something that Aaron Rodgers could look for, knows the sure hands are there to catch it. And I thought I saw a little Chimura kind of emerging there as well.
Mark Chimura, a blast from the past. It's just so good to have a big tight end again that we can count on. I think we're going to see great things from him this year. and I still can't believe the Rams let him go.
And it's not to say anything bad about Richard Rodgers because he hasn't been out there very much, in this preseason. But it'd be really interesting to see like what Cook and Perillo could do in tandem, since Perillo catches everything thrown his way. If Cook's not covered, you go to Perillo. The 2 tight end option just keeps looking sexier and sexier every single week I think about it.
I want to see some of that stuff opening day down in Jacksonville for that 9th home game. But, one game at a time.
Did you say 9th home game?
When you said it first a couple of weeks ago, I'm like, I'm taking that. I'm adopting that. I'm going to live by that, because even this Niners game, there were so many Packers fans in the crowd that it seemed almost like a Packers home game, especially in the second half. So down in Jacksonville, I would not expect anything less.
I love watching games on TV and just hearing "Go Pack, go, go Pack, go" coming over the TV broadcast. It is so much fun.
Especially when you think of the home team and they're hearing chants for the Packers in their home stadium. It's got to mess with their minds just a little bit.
Just slightly.
And that I love. Somebody else that bounced back after maybe taking a little step back last week was backup quarterback Joe Callahan. Man, he rocked it.
Yes, he did. Rocked it indeed. How in the heck did he escape that sack? Oh my gosh. I guess it pays to be a little bit smaller sometimes. But he was able to squeeze out of there and drop that 51-yarder to Geronimo. Oh, that was so good.
Yes, it was. I actually had a little bit of a flashback of Brett Favre there for a moment.
Oh my gosh, it was total Brett Favre in that moment. It was so awesome. 16 of 24, 167 yards and a tutty for a 100.7 rating. Very similar to his first game out. I think that the Packers would feel okay with him being the number 2, depending on what Hundley's situation is. Yeah,
the Hundley situation still makes me a little bit nervous, but Joe Callahan, the way on that play when he rolled right and threw a little bit left across the body, I got a little bit nervous, but then Geronimo, like you said, pulled it down, and that was fabulous. And then we scored just a few plays later. And how about Geronimo and Abbrederis? Most everybody was looking great in this game.
I know. Regardless of what happens with Jordy and all the receivers, they all need to step up this year, because last year's pass production was poor, to say the least. And if we have them all stepping up, Geronimo, Abbrederis, you even see Devontae Adams catching the ball. What is that? That's amazing.
What was that all about?
I mean, think about it. He was literally like millimeters away from pulling down that Joe Callahan pass. It was like Joe threw that ball perfectly, and Devontae was just one step too short. But that one pass he caught from Rodgers at the beginning of the game on the sideline from the phantom pass interference call that was called on Randall Cobb, but was really on number 88, not number 18. But that's okay. Refs need preseasons too.
Yes.
But yeah, all these receivers are doing fairly well. We still haven't seen a lot of Ty Montgomery in the preseason, so we're looking to see him step up a little bit. And then you still have a lot of depth there too. You have a bunch of people still trying to make the team.
Like I touched on a few weeks ago, it's almost an embarrassment of riches, especially if everybody does step up. And talking about stepping up, Mason Crosby. The guy is money, and McCarthy definitely trusts in Crosby. So I say no need to see him kicking anything this week.
I don't think he kicked anything last week, if memory serves. 6 fourth down situations. The Packers go for it on all 6 of those. And you wouldn't believe this stat. They converted 5 of the 6.
What?
Amazing. We talked about 3rd down conversions last year. 5 out of 6 4th down conversions this year.
All of those 4th down conversions were just fantastic. And yes, I know it is just preseason, but the fact that we're going for it and we're playing pretty much in a game situation, this preseason seems totally different than last year's preseason.
You know what it is?
No.
Extra week of practice.
Because of the game that got canceled and never happened.
Because of the game that got canceled and never happened. It's exactly right.
And left us.
Extra week of practice definitely helps.
And that week left us with a little bit less to talk about on the Big Brett Favre episode. But I guess in the end, it all works out. And, not everything was fabulous. There's always lowlights, even though we still won the game. So that's what's important, even if it's preseason. The punting. Can I get a yawn for the punting this week?
Yes, both guys didn't do a stellar job. Mastay looked better thanks to his English. No, not the verbal English, the English that gets put on the ball. He took a 39-yard punt and turned it into something way more amazing than it actually was.
Very cool.
And Mortel's hang time was good if you're running the 40, but not if you're punting the football. So, yeah, the punting situation is definitely something that is a challenge in Green Bay.
Stay tuned. Later in this episode, we've got a lot to tell you if you, for whatever reason, have missed out on all the news of the past few days. But how about this part? Kind of burns me only because in the regular season, I really need this to happen. The Packers not getting any points on that first possession of the ball.
Yeah, and I didn't know if that was just Aaron Rodgers being a little rusty, first game situation for him. I mean, they would look like the drive was going. The penalties kind of hurt him a little bit. I think that they can correct that. There's no reason why these guys shouldn't be able to drive the ball at least to the point of getting a field goal on any opening drive they have this season. They have the weapons. They have the offensive line. The running backs are running hard. The receivers are doing what they need to do to make plays and get open, especially in the slant and over the middle. I think we're going to see some very interesting things. But, you know, McCarthy, he wants to start fast. And when you don't get on the board, and then you have the defense also decide to take a snooze on that first play during the Niners game, they kind of came down the field like lightning. And I was like, oh my gosh, this looks like the 49ers of before when Kaepernick was back there, but Kaepernick wasn't back there. It was some other guy. And I was a little nervous there for that first two series interchanges, but then, you know, Rodgers calms down, butterflies are away. You know, he drives down the field, puts it in for the tutty, and sits down and goes home.
And everybody's happy, at least in the land of Green Bay.
I believe we've talked about this when you were at the game once. Like the Packers seemed to score. Like, I don't know if that was the Bears game you went to, or if it was the Chiefs game, but they were scoring like every 5 minutes, and it was like, if they could just score every 5 minutes, that would be awesome.
I believe that was the Bears game because the points were just coming out of nowhere, seemingly, as were the sacks against Jay Cutler. Oh, good times, good times. Now, we do have a little bit of injury information that will cause us to be slightly nervous. Kenny Clark, our first-round pick from right here in the IE, he's been having some issues with his back, and they are kind of downplaying it, making it sound like he's going to be fine come week 1. But I don't know. It just makes me nervous.
Yeah, I didn't see anything about him showing up on the injured reserve list because there was the cut down to 75 today as we're recording this podcast. And so I think that, you know, anytime you have a back issue, you got to take advantage of it. He didn't make the trip out to San Francisco. He didn't want the long flight to obviously aggravate it. So it'll just be a day-by-day situation to see what happens there, and hopefully he can loosen that up and be ready to go for day one because, gosh knows, defensive-wise, things have been looking okay, but we definitely need all the players we can get because the depth just is not there.
And if you've ever had a very sore back, the last thing you want to do is sit in an airplane seat for a few hours while you fly across the country.
2 ways.
Yeah, 2 ways. You know, cross that off the list. And, of course, your boy Johnny the Rocket Crockett a little bit banged up. Have you heard any rumblings about that? I think he's going to be fine, but...
Yeah, long term, but I don't know if he's going to play much. You know, it's going to take a while for this to work itself out. So, unfortunately, with timing, I don't know if this is going to end Crockett's season here. It'll be a little bit nervous if maybe he gets in there, maybe not. I have to double-check how the rules apply. Like, if you go on injured reserve in the preseason, are you eligible to come back? Because they do have to make that 53-man roster, and that comes on, oh my gosh, it's like around the corner, right? September 3rd.
I know.
That 53-man roster is coming up quick. Holy cow.
And Chris Banjo getting a hamstring injury. He's listed as questionable, so that kind of sounds like he's going to be all right. Just forget this 4th preseason game.
Yep, and then Jeff Janis won't be catching any Hail Marys this year because hand cast for him, man, that's like a giant club. That's a little hard to do when you're a receiver.
I know. We're used to seeing occasionally, you know, linemen out there playing with a cast on their hand. But when I saw footage of him coming out to practice the other day with that cast on and knowing, wait a minute, he's a wide receiver. What the heck?
So what do you think this bodes for Janis' situation then? I mean, if Geronimo is catching the ball and then you still have some draft picks that are back there, and you still have Ty coming back, and Randall, and Abadaris, and Jordy, and, you know, does Jeff go on the IR too?
The Packers have to make some very tough decisions, and I think that they're really going to focus on what's happening in this 4th preseason game to make those big decisions. But unfortunately, I would not be surprised if Jeff Janis ends up on IR, though I do not want him there myself.
Speaking of big, tough decisions, Wayne.
Oh, my gosh. I cannot believe.
What the hell just happened in the last 3 days? It's like Crazy Town.
Tell us about Crazy Town, because it bears repeating if you have heard it, and we want to hear your thoughts about it as well.
I mean, yes, we already said that the punting was not the greatest this past weekend, right? But here you got Tim Mastay. He's been like the, what do you call it, the quintessential Packer for the longest time. He's got all kinds of like franchise records and all this other stuff. And then you have Mortel, hometown kid, holder of the year, booting the ball like crazy, really giving Tim a run for his money. And even though we said last week that Mortel had made it to day 21, so it looked like Ted might be keeping him around, yes, Mortel got cut from the team.
Unbelievable.
Like Twitter like blew up. They were like, "What? I can't believe you're cutting Mortel!" Like they literally wanted Ted's head. It seemed like. But then a day later, they cut Mastay.
What on earth is going on? What the heck's going on out there?
We went from a punting competition to no punters in 2 days.
Well, fortunately, Troy, that the Packers are going to score on every drive, so we really don't have a need to punt the ball, I suppose.
There's the Wayne Henderson optimism I've been looking for.
That's all I can think of at this moment, because I'm a bit bewildered.
Yes, but as they were moving and shaking some of the stuff around, so Mastay does give his waivers. I guess that's why it's called Show Friends and not Show Business. But, Pete, you're still holder of the year. You get to play in a game at Lambeau Field, 2 of them actually, and you got to practice where you once watched from the fence on your bike as a kid. And Tim, I know we've had our differences over the past few years, but you're a longtime Packer, many records. We salute you, sir, for every yard you helped us gain in field position to make the W's possible. We appreciate both their service, and we will see them again on the NFL playing field somewhere soon.
But then
there's more. So as the teams are supposed to get down to the 75-man roster today, they bring in one Jacob Schum off the waiver wire. And if you look at his stats, they're pretty much in line with the 2 guys we just got rid of.
Very similar to Mastay in my book.
Yeah, so, all you have to say, Jacob, if you're listening, you got to get it done, son, because this podcast crew, we ain't taking punts less than 40 yards, unless you're on the 40-yard line and put it on the 1.
We'll take that. We will definitely be flexible.
Man.
Jacob Schum, huh?
Schum, yes, Schum, off the waiver wire today of all days. It's like, wow.
Well, welcome to the 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers. It's a great time for you to join the team, Jacob, as we go on the road to the Super Bowl. That was a pretty good move on your part.
Yes. Three more games on the road even to start to even think about the Super Bowl. Gosh, the road stretch is going to be so long until we get back to Lambeau.
Yes, it is.
We had some listener feedback, though, that came in from everything that's been happening preseason, game-wise, and, of course, all the switches and change roos that have happened over the last couple of days. What came in from the Facebook?
On Facebook, Dean Tix says Callahan is a keeper, and Allison is making plays also. That 51-yarder would have been matched by Adams in that post route if Adams could have held on to the ball, but all in all, pretty good. Dean Tix enjoyed that preseason victory over the Niners.
So I just want to clarify, because we are football fans listening to this podcast, I'm assuming, right? So we want to make sure that when he says that Callahan is a keeper, that means he's a keeper for the Packers organization. He's not going to be a keeper in your fantasy leagues.
No, I guess for those of you that play fantasy football, that is an important distinction.
Yes, just want to make sure well, Troy and Wayne told us that he should be our keeper.
No.
Ladies, that's not what we're saying.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please do not take any fantasy football advice from me ever, because I played one season, and because I can't bear to pick any players that are not Green Bay Packers, I sucked. It was terrible. I should have been victorious, but my son explained, no, that's not a good strategy. So don't ever listen to me when it comes to fantasy football.
Agree 100%. We also had Dawn Lejeune from Texas chiming in, and she absolutely loved what she saw from Joe Callahan by simply saying, that Callahan, though.
Exactly.
Wow.
It was amazing. I mean, I know it was preseason, but If he can do anything like that, if we ever do need him on the field, it's going to be a good day. And Monica says, this Callahan kid looks okay and is loving the fact that the Packers succeeded in going for it on so many fourth downs. Thank you, Monica.
5 out of 6. That's crazy. 5 out of 6. And remember, one of those was a 4th and 9.
I know.
That Callahan threw to Geronimo for a 10-yard gain. Amazing.
I mean, Coach McCarthy's just got to be, it's preseason. What the heck? Let's go for it.
We're just having fun out there. It's practice.
Exactly.
Ryan Hunter, heard him from Ryan from Chico calling in, pinged in on Twitter this week. The Packers made a huge mistake cutting Mortel, in my opinion. I hate to be so harsh on a Packer, but Mastay has to go. Guess what, Ryan? Wish granted. Ding! Dude is a Packer, always will be a Packer. I have a feeling he could and should be back. Too many games with sub 40-yard punts. Mastay could be gone. No. He is gone, Ryan. Gone like the wind.
Yeah, and then the very next day, Ryan followed up with, we cut Mastay, but not Mortel? What? Mortel was booting it, and this guy looks maybe worse than Mastay. Stat-wise, I am mad. And Ryan, we can understand your frustration, and I am bewildered.
You can't see all the devil smiley emoticon icons that came after that tweet on the podcast. I'm perplexed.
Perplexed. That's one way to look at it. We don't know all the behind the scenes things. We don't know what the guys were like in the locker room, what went into the decisions. But on the surface, this is the wackiest thing I've seen the Packers do in a long time.
I mean, we're talking about last year. It's like Lacey's weight and oh my gosh, and the offensive line and Jordy goes out. We're talking about the punters. Like the punters are the big story of 2016. Scratch your head on that one.
If that is the big story of something that's causing us concern, then I guess everything else is doing okay. And kind of in other news, James Jones is back on the market. The Chargers cut him the other day. Just saying.
That's a lot of wide receivers.
I know.
Keep 8 on the team. We need them all.
Put out one play where we've got all 8 out there on one play. No, run the ball.
With what, 3 down linemen or something?
I don't know. There would be, I'm sure an ineligible receiver would be part of that play somehow.
I'm sure there would.
Now, we did have a Twitter poll. I like to do those every week. And this one was put out Monday before all the news on Mastay broke. So based on the original cuts the Packers did, I posted this question. Which player cut by the Packers is the biggest surprise to you? Punter Peter Mortel, defensive tackle Demetrius Anderson, wide receiver Jamel Johnson, or other? And surprise, surprise, 73% of the Packers Fan Podcast voters said Peter Mortel. 5% thought Demetrius Anderson was the biggest surprise cut. 13% were most surprised by the Packers cutting Jamel Johnson. And 9% of the Packers Fan Podcast voting community said other. And
unfortunately, on Twitter, there's no write-in, so we don't know who the other people would have been. But that would be nice to know.
That would be
when
nice.
You said other, who were the other people you were talking about, 9%?
Unless those 9% knew about Mastay was on the chopping block. I don't know.
Wow.
There you have it.
Mortal. That's it. Maybe he was Mortal.
Maybe there's a way he can be back, but I have a feeling another team's going to snatch him up. Holder of the year, Troy.
Holder of the year from Green Bay. Squash the dreams. Ted, man. Ted. I don't know. You would assume that the guy is from Green Bay, that even if he's not that good, he's going to do his best to be like, just because he wants his team to win, because it's his team, literally.
Exactly.
I don't get it.
He might even be a part owner.
He might be. How does that work? If you're a part owner and a player, can you do that? Is that like against NFLPA regulations or something?
We may never know.
Oh my gosh. Well, that'll do it for the Packers. Let's move into the rest of the NFC North, because our one formidable opponent might not be so formidable anymore.
Just like that.
Just like that. I mean, literally seasons change in the blink of an eye. And that's what happened up in Minnesota today, August 30th, 2016. Teddy Bridgewater. What we know at the time of this recording is that at practice today, August 30th, Teddy went down on the field, holding his leg around the area of his knee. The trainers rushed out, put an air cast on the leg. Practice ended immediately 25 minutes into the session. And Coach Mike Zimmer said that Teddy is getting an MRI and called it, quote, a significant knee injury, end
boy.
quote. And that his return for the season again would be, quote, doesn't look good right now, end quote. So obviously we pray for Teddy and his family and hope that he gets healed up soon. But again, they are divisional opponents, so don't look past the Vikings. One man does not a team make. You saw the Packers rise to the challenge last year and still make the playoffs with all the injuries we battled through. But yeah, this definitely puts a wrinkle because now you have AP carrying the load for that team, and AP is not getting any younger. So we could be seeing an injury for AP too, depending on how much they utilize him.
Hopefully they won't overuse him and cause an injury, but I do have a feeling that no matter who ends up being the quarterback of the Vikings for the first part of the season or the whole season, depending on how Teddy's injury goes, there's going to be a lot more running plays. The game plan just changed, unfortunately, for the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, and unfortunately 1 week too late, right? Because trying to install a new offense now is beyond impossible. But luckily they have like that fourth week bye week with us, correct? If I look at the schedule.
I haven't looked at the other team's bye weeks, but I would not be surprised. And they're going to need it.
Yes, they will. They will indeed. But that's it for NFC North notes because nobody cares about the Lions and the Bears this year. Holy crap. They look like dog dirt.
And isn't that just too bad?
Oh, my, the Bears look so bad. So bad in preseason.
Unless they're hiding all of their genius and they're just going to spring it on everybody week one. Don't know.
The best part about watching some of the games that I've caught, because obviously being here in the Chicago market, it's Jay's just out there with the same face on, like, why can't you guys block for me? Why can't I get a person to help me out?
Oh, man.
Good old Smoking Jay.
It's definitely going to make that, was it week 2 when the Packers visit the Vikings to help break in their new stadium? It's going to be a totally different scene, unfortunately, for the Vikings.
Yeah, I was trying to get tickets for that game, like somewhere like $500, $600 to sit in the end zone.
That's because anybody that bought season tickets had to pay humongous seat license fees. Rip off.
If you have to pay PSLs for any sporting event, you're doing it wrong.
Exactly.
That's all I got to say.
Exactly.
Just sell stock. People will buy it. They want to be an owner of a NFL franchise team.
I know. I think my percentage breaks down my ownership. I own 1 or 2 of the cup holders on those new seats in the end zone at Lambeau Field.
That's right. I own, I think, one of the step tar things that you put on to get your extra gripping when the steps are icy.
Oh, see, that's valuable. That's good to have.
Safety first.
Seat licenses. Yeah, the Rams are looking into that for their new stadium. It's like, whatever. So, yeah, the seats are going to be expensive. And I watched part of the game this weekend, the preseason game, and just to see the new stadium, see if I could spot that wooden beam that the governor of Wisconsin signed, Go Pack Go on.
Exactly.
Didn't see the beam, but, man, the seats, that's a lot of purple.
There's a lot of purple in there. I had to turn it off because I thought my TV was broken. Gamma contrast was broken or something. Holy crap, that's a lot of purple.
Oh, well, the Packers have who knows who's going to play and why and what they're going to do, but it's going to be on TV. The Packers at Chiefs is coming, Troy.
That's right. Rodgers and Nelson, I'm going to say not in the lineup Thursday night.
No.
It's going to be a really big chance for the rookies to step up and make their name known because the team looks to fill the coveted 53 spots. Cut down day to 75, as we mentioned, was today, August 30th. And the coaches and Ted Thompson will have to decide just 2 days after the Chiefs game who the 53 will be, because September 3rd at 6 p.m. Eastern is when the roster of 53 must be submitted. So the big cuts coming down today were, as Wayne mentioned, defensive tackle Demetrius Anderson, cornerback Randall Jett, wide receiver Jamal Johnson, linebacker Derek Matthews, punter Peter Mortel, and punter Tim Mastey.
Wow.
Wide receiver Ed Williams and wide receiver Harvey Binford. Now, this is where it gets interesting because the rest of these guys are actually being placed on injured reserve, and I'm not sure how that plans out. If that means they're done for the year or if they can come back because they're on IR during the preseason. I have to look into those rules. I don't remember. If you know, obviously give us a call, 920-3PACK-GO, and we'd love to hear from you. But tight end Kennard Backman right there on injured reserve. Running back John Crockett, yes, the King Croc is on injured reserve. Jacob Flores, center, is on injured reserve. Tight end Mitchell Henry is on reserve, and guard Josh Walker goes on injured reserve. So what this means is that Perillo is now the tight end 3 slot, and Brandon Burks is now in the running back 3 spot behind Lacey and Starks. And Burks has had a pretty decent camp so far. Not as explosive and exciting as Johnny the Rocket Crockett, but Brandon Burks, I think, will do a nice job, dispelling Starks and Lacey when needed.
Yeah, and I noticed him kind of shining a bit in this past week's game, so I would not be surprised to see him do very well. Fourth preseason, everybody's trying to make sure they can make that roster because what is that, 22 players that have to be cut just 2 days after? That's a big cut.
That's a lot of people to be like, nope. And you almost feel like you're one of those, like American Idol or X Factor or America's Got Talent, where you got to like have all their pictures up there and you're just kind of Xing them off one at a time. Front row, step forward.
Oh, I cannot imagine them doing it that way. That would be extra brutal. Okay, back rope, you're all gone. I'm sorry.
Everybody on the 40-yard line, pack your bags. You're done.
But you're bound to get called by somebody because the Packers have taught you well.
Yep. So obviously look for big games from these 2 wide receivers. I'm sorry. Edit that. Obviously look for big games from Perillo and Brandon Burks this week, along with good old Geronimo Allison and Trevor Davis. Don't forget about Trevor. He's out there too. They need to make names for themselves to get a spot as a wide receiver on the Packers squad.
I'm looking forward to that.
So let's go ahead and look at the 5 key things for Kansas City this week. Number 1, Jamal Charles is in age year 29. That's right, 29 years old. He's had 2 knee surgeries under his belt. So look for, I can never say this guy's name, Charkandrick West and Spencer Ware. They'll probably be carrying the load on Thursday night. So keep an eye on those 2 running backs. Number 2, Jeremy Maclin is the entire wide receiving core of the Kansas City Chiefs. Wayne and I know we saw it happen live last year.
In the rain.
So basically he catches everything thrown his way. So if you have a PPR league, this is me, Troy, giving the fantasy advice.
Yes, not Wayne.
If you have a PPR league, Jeremy Maclin is your guy. Pick him up because he will catch everything. But on Thursday night against the Packers, keep an eye out for Albert Wilson and Chris Conley because these 2 need to step up and show off their game because if they can, the Chiefs will actually show up playing with 11 instead of 9 players. Sorry, Rob Walsh.
Poor guy.
Love
Rob. Today on iOS podcast.
Yes. They need to also find a cornerback, so look for the rookies to make a splash in this game. Sean Smith, remember, walked away in free agency after the emergence of rookie Marcus Peters last season, so they obviously need a replacement for Sean Smith. So those cornerbacks, they're going to be hungry trying to pick off Callahan and even Wilson if he ever gets in the game. Also watch out for Don Tyree Poe or Alan Bailey, Jay Howard, and rookie Chris Jones on the pass rush because the Chiefs look to shore up their defense, and they're going to be hungry. So our offensive line definitely needs to stand up to these 4. And since we own time of possession in the preseason, the lack of the Kansas City Chiefs clock management should not be a concern, which is sad to say when Andy Reid is the coach. But nonetheless, Andy Reid definitely wants to fix that, and I'm sure he will try to step it up a little bit in this final dress rehearsal. So keep an eye on TOP this week. It'd be nice to be above 35 again. Man.
Yes, as Troy Heinrichs would say.
Yes.
You say it much better because you are the original.
That's right.
And the Green Bay Packers, they do put out the official dope sheet every week. Here's some of the highlights, and we'll have the full thing linked in our show notes. PackersFanPodcast.com/109, as this is episode 109. The Green Bay Packers will travel to Kansas City to play the Chiefs in their final game of the preseason. Thank goodness. It'll be the 8th time and the 6th since 2010 that the Packers and Chiefs will face each other in a final preseason game. And you know what? Between the preseason and regular season, it seems like the Chiefs are almost a division rival. We play them all the time.
Well, 6 since 2010. That means 6 plus 10 is 16. That's once every year.
No wonder it seems like it's all the time. And Green Bay is 4-3 when closing out the preseason against KC, and 8-7-1 overall when playing the Chiefs in preseason. The Packers have won 3 of the last 4 preseason matchups against the Chiefs, and 2 of the last 3 regular season contests including a 38-28 win at Lambeau Field in Week 3 of the 2015 regular season. The memories, Troy, the memories, the rain, the scoring, the touchdowns, the beautiful Lambeau Field. Oh, that was awesome.
It was so great.
You get
great.
You just stop, you check the weather forecast, you stop off at Walmart, buy some super cheap ponchos. It's all good.
And it was a really interesting day because it was like super sunny and super hot, like up until 5:30, 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then we were like, I'm so glad we got those ponchos because it poured from 6 to 7:30.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be terrible if we didn't get our $4.88 worth?
No doubt. No doubt. My brother's actually going to be at the game. He got tickets. They're going to be down in Kansas City watching the green and gold.
Very cool. Supporting the Packers. That's good to hear.
It absolutely is.
Oh, Green Bay's last victory at Kansas City came during the 2007 regular season when we won 33-22. And the Packers...
We're gonna rectify that on Thursday.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be modern.
10 years is too long.
That is, considering how often we play those pesky Chiefs.
No doubt. No doubt.
And the Packers have won 4 of their last 5 preseason finales over the last 2 years. And I know it's just preseason, but Green Bay has outscored its opponents 72-24 in Week 4 of the preseason. Can I get a go, Pack, go?
Go, Pack, go indeed. That's awesome. I didn't know that stat.
So, in other words,
I get to watch a score fest on Thursday night. That's fantastic.
In fact, since we don't predict the scores in the preseason games like we do during the regular season, I'm going to go ahead and just for fun say we win this game 72-24.
That's a lot. I'm going to be a little bit more conservative and say 38-23.
Oh, okay. Whatever. Green Bay is 3-0 in the preseason for the first time since 2009, when we also started 3-0. And some notable connections. Andy Reid, in his 4th year as the Chiefs head coach. Gosh, I thought it was just his 2nd. Time is flying by. And after all those years in Philly, and he is the Chiefs' 12th head coach, Andy Reid won a Super Bowl in 1996 with the Packers and coached tight ends and the offensive line in Green Bay for 5 seasons from 92 to 96, as well as the quarterbacks coach from 97 to 98. And of course, Packers head coach Mike McCarthy. I didn't know this till I read the dope sheet. He was Kansas City's offensive assistant and quality control guy from 93 to 94 before coaching quarterbacks there from 95 to 98. So isn't it great how there's almost every team we play, there's some sort of great cross story going on there.
I know. Better than cross-dressing, but... No,
right, because this is the NFL and we have uniforms. But then again, there's those...
Let's not color rush things. That's what I was thinking of. I was like, no, the ketchup and mustard game.
Because I've heard that we're going to be forced to wear color rush at one of our Thursday games this year.
Oh, no. Stop,
NFL with this money grab. And again, be sure to read the full Packers dope sheet for the game against the Chiefs, linked on our website at PackersFanPodcast.com/109.
It's not a money grab. Nobody is buying that garbage. They're ugly.
Money grab attempt.
They're just ugly. Make it stop, please.
Yes.
Just like this podcast is going to stop, we've reached the end. The unofficial Packers Fan Podcast is not affiliated with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers. However, now is the perfect time to make that happen. Just contact us at media@PackersFanPodcast.com. Also, don't forget to become one of the PFP faithful. That's right, Packers Fan Podcast faithful, by visiting PackersFanPodcast.com/support to see how you can help make your podcast even better. Please tell all of your Packers friends. The season is almost here, people. We want everybody to listen to the podcast.
In fact, any friends that for whatever reason are not Packers friends, make them Packers friends and have them listen to the podcast, because you can even listen to the show on the go with our free Packers Fan Podcast apps for iOS and Android, presented by theticketking.com. Don't get sold out of your next Packer game. Visit PackersFanPodcast.com/tickets for all the details, and follow us all season and all off season on Twitter at PackersFanPod, and follow me on Twitter too. Why not? I'm at Wayne Henderson.
And why not follow me as well? I'm at Troy Heinrichs. Be sure to also like us on Facebook, as we have a Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community. Just go to PackersFanPodcast.com/Facebook to join the community. We just want to call it out. Just PackersFanPodcast.com/ whatever you want to find. That's what you do.
Oh, is that the theme we're going with?
/Facebook, /Twitter, /support, /tickets, /109.
It's not just a coincidence.
It is not. In fact, there's one more slash you could tell them about, Wayne.
That's right. It's PackersFanPodcast.com/feedback to get in your thoughts. Let your voice be heard all season long. Keep the conversations going online. We're going to be back as we get ready for the regular season. But until then, thank you for listening to this episode of the Packers Fan Podcast.
Be sure to subscribe in iTunes and continue to support the podcast. The rookies need your help. They're trying to vie for a spot on the team. Show them your support. Cheer for your favorites. Get amped up with a Go Pack Go!